Today, we're diving into something straight out of science fiction, except it's real. We're talking about CRISPR, the groundbreaking gene editing technology that's changing human DNA. Imagine a world where genetic diseases can be erased before they even begin, where we can tweak our genes for better health, longer life, or even enhanced abilities. Sounds crazy, right? Well, it's already happening. Before we get started, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you love learning about cutting-edge science. Now let's get into it. CRISPR stands for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats. Sounds complicated, but here's the simple version. Scientists discovered that bacteria have a built-in immune system that allows them to cut out viruses from their DNA. They figured out that this same mechanism could be used to cut and edit human DNA as well. Think of it as a pair of molecular scissors, snipping out the bad parts and replacing them with better ones. This discovery has completely changed the game for genetic research. In the past, modifying DNA was expensive, slow, and imprecise. CRISPR makes it faster, cheaper, and shockingly accurate. It's already being used to treat genetic disorders like sickle cell anemia, and even some forms of blindness. Imagine people who were told they'd never see again, suddenly regaining their vision because of a tiny tweak in their DNA. It's happening. But let's take it a step further. What if we could edit genes before birth? Scientists have already tested this in animals, editing embryos to remove genetic defects before they're even born. In China, a scientist claimed to have edited the genes of twin babies to make them resistant to HIV. That experiment sparked a massive ethical debate, and the scientist was actually sentenced to prison. Why? Because when you start editing DNA at the embryonic level, those changes get passed down to future generations. We're talking about permanently altering the human gene pool. And that brings up some big questions. If we can edit genes to prevent diseases, why stop there? What about making people smarter, stronger, more resistant to aging? This is where things get tricky. CRISPR has the potential to eliminate devastating illnesses, but it also opens the door to genetic enhancement, and that could lead to an entirely new form of inequality. Imagine a future where only the wealthy can afford gene editing, creating a genetic elite with better health, intelligence, and lifespan. It sounds like science fiction, but it's not that far-fetched. Then there's the risk of unintended consequences. DNA is incredibly complex, and while CRISPR is precise, it's not perfect. A single mistake in gene editing could create new health problems instead of fixing old ones. Scientists are still figuring out how to make it safer, but as with any powerful technology, there's always a risk. Let's break it down even further. CRISPR has two main parts, the Cas9 enzyme, which acts like the molecular scissors, and the guide RNA, which tells Cas9 where to cut. Once the DNA is cut, scientists can either let the cell repair itself naturally or insert a new piece of genetic material. This means we could potentially cure genetic conditions like cystic fibrosis or even eliminate inherited forms of cancer before they take hold. One of the most promising areas where CRISPR is being applied is in agriculture. Scientists are using gene editing to create crops that are more resistant to pests and climate change. Imagine food that lasts longer, is more nutritious, and requires fewer pesticides. This could be a game changer for global food security. But back to humans. CRISPR is already being tested in treating diseases like Huntington's, a fatal genetic disorder that currently has no cure. If CRISPR proves successful, it could offer hope to thousands of families. There are also studies using CRISPR to potentially treat HIV by cutting out the virus from infected cells. These developments could lead to breakthroughs in how we treat some of the world's deadliest diseases. Of course, there's also the legal and ethical side. Different countries have different regulations on gene editing. Some allow research on embryos but not implantation, while others have outright bans. The debate centers around whether we should be editing human genes at all, especially when it comes to changes that can be inherited by future generations. There's also the question of unintended consequences. While CRISPR is incredibly powerful, it's not foolproof. There have been instances of off-target effects, where the gene editing tool makes changes in unintended places. That's why researchers are working on more precise versions of CRISPR, like prime editing, which acts like a word processor for DNA, making edits without breaking the DNA strand completely. So where are we headed with all of this? Right now, CRISPR is already changing lives. There are clinical trials happening across the world, testing treatments for genetic diseases, cancer, and even viral infections. Some experts believe that within the next decade, CRISPR could become a routine part of medicine, allowing doctors to edit DNA as easily as prescribing a pill. Others warn that without strict regulations, we could be playing with fire. But what do you think? Should we embrace CRISPR and all its possibilities, or are we stepping into dangerous territory? Would you be open to gene editing for medical reasons, or do you think it could lead to a world of unintended consequences? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.